Join Maayan Gal and I as we talk about welcoming the uncomfortable parts of you. Instead of focusing on changing the external environment, Maayan and Gal emphasize the internal change. They help women who start a new life abroad find their center, their strengths, their talents, and their desires, using these to succeed in their new lives. These sisters talk about how our strengths, when overused, become our weaknesses. Maayan and Gal are the founders of Smoozitive and are expat experts. They are fourth generation expats, so change is a natural part of their lives. Today, they are guiding and supporting women to experience a smooth and joyful journey abroad, no matter where they live. They are the authors of Change Your Glasses, Grab Your Coconuts, whatever that means, and be ready to be inspired and empowered. Welcome, Gal and Maayan to the Coconut Soul Spirit. It's a pleasure today to invite you two sisters for an interview about self-love. This is so exciting. You're the first sisters that I'm interviewing. And without further ado, I would say I would like you to tell us about your self-love stories, each of you.
So first of all, thank you for having us.
It's my pleasure, ladies.
Do you want to start? As you said, we are sisters. I am Gal and my sister Maayan. And our self-love journey started, I think, a couple of years ago when we looked for something to change, because struggling times, we had a lot of challenges, each on our own. We had different businesses before. We used to live in Israel. We're currently living in France. And the first thing that we were taught to do, or we were used to do, we'll say it like that, was to change something external, change a career, change the decoration inside the home, change friends, change countries. That was our main go-to. But a couple of years ago, we realized like something is deeper than that. Like it cannot be only external changes. Something internal needs to change. And that's where I think each one of us, for different reasons, we started our own self-love journey, reconnecting with ourselves, looking deeper inside, to understand really what is the source of whatever we were dealing with. And that's when it hit us. It's inside. Like when you change the inside, when you are stronger and you feel more confident and you reconnect with yourself, that's where you can actually deal with everything that's around you and make better decision, even if it's relocation wise.
So your idea is not to stop those external, but to take some time to focus on the internal.
Exactly. To start there.
Amazing.
To start there.
Yes, it's an interesting precision that you make. Can you go ahead and share your story, Maayan, please?
Sure. So like Gal just said, we had different journeys. At the time, I was dealing with some anxiety and wanted to change something because I wasn't happy with my life. I wasn't happy with my career. I wasn't happy, something felt not good. I didn't know what it was, but actually I discovered it was like me with myself, the relationship that I had with myself. And like Gal said, we had a long journey. It was tough. I had tough moments, reconnecting to myself. It wasn't love at first sight. I really remember that at the beginning, I was working with a life coach and through yoga as well and mindfulness. And it got me like an exercise that sounds really simple, but when you wake up in the morning, say good morning to yourself in the mirror. I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. And for months, I couldn't do that. I was brushing my teeth, looking down, and I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And when I understood how twisted that is, that I'm so disconnected from myself and I really need to work on that. And I did, it's active work, daily work all the time, until, I could wake up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, this is who I am. I like it. Good morning. Let's go on.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
It's a real, journey. It's a journey and it's not always an easy one, but it's so worth it.
And I'm curious, do you still say good morning in the mirror as you wake up?
Well, it really depends on how I feel with myself, because I have periods in my life where I feel less connected to myself and less good, and everything else, it's reflected in everything that I do. But when I caught myself that this is happening, I immediately go back to this exercise and, reconnect.
I appreciate that you're sharing this, because I know that I also still sometimes I'm doing like you do, like looking at the sink as I brush my teeth, and there's nothing interesting there, right? Maybe I realize that I have to clean it, but that's not useful. And yes, there was some point in my life, a younger mom, where I did not look at myself. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. So thank you for sharing that piece of your life. And you did mention that there was some struggles.
Yes.
Can you ladies talk about the struggles that one may face as they embark or as they go further in that journey of self-love, self-discovery?
So I think, just as Maayan said, like, there is a moment where you realize that you're not enjoying your own reflection, or you are not really you, but you don't know what is it that is you, because you were so disconnected, because for a long time you tried to be someone else, or you put on those layers just so you can keep on going. And it's something that a lot of us are doing quite naturally, because it's part of society and you need to adapt to be a good friend, a good sister, a good mother, a good daughter, a good employee, a good, all of that. And I remember as well, like, times that I was like, something's off, but I couldn't put what is it that is off? And you feel like that something's wrong. Like, you want it to change, but you don't even know where to start changing it. And actually, as Maayan also said, like, it reflects on everything you do. So you want to do things, but you're like, yeah, I can't do that. Like, why can't I? Like, I just can't, or no one will understand why I'm doing. So you're looping it like on the other way, instead of finding what it is. So the struggles of actually understanding who you are underneath all those layers, and loving what you see, is a real challenge. Yeah, and I think I'll add to that it's really confusing sometimes, because when you start digging deep and looking what's inside, like trying to reconnect, and sometimes you don't recognize, and you don't always accept what you see, and you don't always like what you see. And it takes a lot of, honesty to say to yourself, well, this is who I am right now. I can change it if I want to, but I need to accept it first. And this is really, really hard, because a lot of times, especially when we're struggling in our life, we don't really like this person, and try to reconnect to someone that you don't like. It's pretty much impossible. So, it takes a lot of compassion and kindness toward yourself, changing the narrative and changing the way you think about yourself and the way you talk to yourself. Because, when we were struggling, and again, each on our own, the way we talk to ourselves when we are not in a good place with ourselves, sometimes those are words that you would never use talking to a friend.
Exactly.
So, and you do that to yourself. That's horrible sometimes. And, this is how you think about yourself and let others speak to you as well. And this is really going, in the bad direction, in a very negative place. And in order to stop this spiraling down, you need to be really, really strong and know that you really want to change and why you are changing it.
Interesting. You ladies said a lot of elements that I would want to go further on. I think the one that what I would like to know at this point is what you just said, Maayan, about you don't like the person that you see or that you realize that you are, which can be quite challenging. You spoke about compassion. There's also the forgiveness point. So how did you start incorporating, or how did you start adding compassion for yourselves, both of you?
Well, that's tough. I'll be honest. It takes a lot of daily practice. Really, I'm going to share with you a small story. A couple of years ago, when I was, in this journey, I did a task that Gal recommended me to do. It's the VIA strengths test. We all have 24 strengths. It's just ranked in a different rank. And I did a test. I discovered that my top strength was kindness.
Okay.
And
that's nice.
You think it's nice, but
yes.
I bursted into tears, freaked out, and I did not like this result. And because this is something that I got hurt so many times, being the nice person, the kind person, people took advantage of me because I was kind, and I hated it. I hated this person.
Yes. You hated that person that got abused and that let herself abuse. Yeah. And later on, I'd like us to go in that before we hear what Gal has to say. But how can we be nice and still set our limits? So that will be, if you also want to start once you're finished, Gal, and jumping in that direction. Oh, okay.
No problem. I'll let her finish.
Yes.
It's a really interesting topic, but if I'll go back to, accepting that this is who I am. I'm a kind person. And today, 5 years later, I love it. I love that I'm kind.
Yes.
But back then, it took a lot of work to accept first that this is who I am as a person. And then when I'm kind to someone else, every time I began to being kind to someone, speaking, nicely to people, I immediately judged myself. And so judgment is also something very important in the compassion. We really need to stop judging ourselves. We are too hard on ourselves. And every time I caught myself, it's awareness. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to judge myself for being who I am. So for being kind in this example. And every time I caught myself doing that, I'm like, okay, that's okay. I'm being kind. This is who I am. I'm judging myself. It happens. Let's move on. Let's move on. And it wasn't so easy. I'm telling here right now, it sounds simple, but it's daily work. Sometimes it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yes.
But you need to train again. It's like a muscle. You need to train it all the time until, one day it's like, hey, I'm kind and I like it.
Oh, that's amazing. Good for you. I love what you shared. Just to add on that, maybe I would say that it is a daily challenge. I would say just to observe and then welcome, be uncomfortable, and do that again and again until where we get to that point like you, where you're kind and you can appreciate it, because that's your true essence. And I'm sure that you know how to put limits now.
and I will add to that also something that I think we tend to generalize. I don't like who I am. I don't like what I see. Overall, everything. I hate everything.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when you stop and you're super honest with yourself, there's always something you do like.
Yes.
And I can tell that this was something that helped me. Focusing on what is instead of what isn't was something that really helped me. So true, the worst things that I didn't like, I'm a big believer that you can always change. Yes. Once you accept that there's something to change, but you can always change. You're never too old, too young, too smart, too dumb, to whatever.
Exactly.
You can always do that. But in order to get the strength to actually do things, you need to be less judgmental and more compassionate and more forgiving towards yourself. And one of the things that helped me do that is to highlight what I do like. Okay, there's a lot of things I don't, but what I do, like even one thing. And then again, as Maayan said, it's a practice. If you do it more and more, well, in the beginning, you struggle to find one thing you like, but then you find one and you find two and you find three and you keep on going. And then even things that you thought are flaws, like kindness, can become something you learn to like again if you manage them right.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's amazing how you pointed out that shift that can be done. And that overgeneralization, when we say, I don't like anything, or that when we have those super words like everything, nothing, those strong words. And it's a great place to start with what you like. And you did mention it could be difficult. How did you, for your part, Gal, how were you able to put the focus on the positive when you were just at the beginning of switching? So how you saw yourself?
So there was one thing that that I learned through my positive psychology coach that I had at the time, that said to me, like, pick 3 things each day that you do like. And it started with like not regarding myself. It was like 3 good things today.
Yes.
And it was a practice. I needed for 10 days to find 3 good things about a day. Mm-hmm. But then I had to add to them, what was my involvement in that?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then I had to be more like concerned. So it was still not reconnecting to myself. It was still not loving what I see, but it was understanding that I have a part in those things that I do like. And then after, like, I think it took a couple of weeks until like we extracted the external thing and was like, okay, so what did you like that you've done today, or that you are today? But it had to go gradually to be able to even say like, yeah, I like the fact that I helped someone or that I accomplished something. And it's not something I was capable of saying in the early beginnings. And then it keeps on going. When I started working on really reconnecting to myself, it was one of the hardest thing, I think, especially for women. I had to stand up in front of a mirror and say what I do like, what I see. And it is something that requires a lot of honesty, a lot of vulnerability to be able to, because as we said, like, we tend to speak about what's missing in everything in our life. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough education. We don't have enough. We are lacking things. We wish we were a size smaller in our jeans. Like all the things that are not, but we don't pay enough attention to what is. So it's a journey to get there. It's not happening overnight. But when you do, you can start like saying, okay, there's a lot of things I still want to change. It's fine. But what do I do have? Like, and it's a big thing as well.
That's like perfect timing for another situation in my life. So thank you for that advice, Gal. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm sure it's going to inspire and help many people. Did you have anything else to add on what your sister just said, Maya?
I think I just had to what you asked earlier about this. How can you make sure that you put the boundary in the right place.
Perfect. That's where I wanted us to go.
Regarding kindness. And that's something to understand. Maya mentioned the character strength. We all have them. It's one of the biggest positive psychology research that has been done over the past 20 years. And one of the things we need to understand is every strength that we have can quickly become a weakness if overused.
Yes.
And it's about understanding boundaries in general, and thinking about, it's easier for us as human beings to think about someone else. So if, for example, kindness is the example we're sharing here, we wouldn't want someone to be over kind to us. Like it's not something we would want to put the boundary for them if they don't. Yes. And then we need to learn how to do it ourselves. It's good to be kind. Never change that. That's what I said to her 5 years ago. Never change that. But you need to learn who to be kind to, when. Be kind to yourself. Kindness is not only external, it has to be also internal. And give it a try. See, it's always about testing it and seeing where you're doing it, and you understand as you go. There are some kind of people who will always take advantage of you.
Yes.
So learn first if they have a place in your life, because maybe not only regard kindness, but second, like, so will you do those kind of things to them, or should you keep it for someone else? So it's a lot about learning our own boundaries, and the only way to learn boundaries is to actually cross them.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Oh, I'd like to know more about that.
Like, how would you know that something is not acceptable to you if you did not try it? If you've never been in the situation that was making you feel uncomfortable, or like when you cross a boundary, you know that this is like not good, and I'm not going to cross that again. But until you even, sometimes you don't need to cross it. You just need to really approach it.
Yes.
To see that here I'm not comfortable, and I'm honest enough to stand back, and boundaries work for you and for others. It needs to be the same boundary. Like, you're not crossing and they cannot cross it. It's there, it's a two-side border.
Yes. It's amazing with what you just said about the boundaries, that sometimes you have to cross them. And as one is crossing a boundary, sometimes they may do something they regret. I'm thinking about as when I was a nurse in rehab, boundaries were crossed. And why I like what you just said, it's because it's sometimes a necessity, which means that there shouldn't be guilt or shame. I'm hesitating in saying shouldn't, because we cannot dictate how somebody is feeling, but understanding that it's normal and it's part of the process may help some people to forgive themselves for those times where they went out of their way and they realized maybe later that they didn't want to do that. So interesting. I love it.
That's the place where compassion and non-judging yourself really enters. Something happened and you might regret it. You crossed a boundary. Yes. But then if you judge yourself and you're too hard on yourself and you're beating yourself down, when this doesn't help you at all to move forward. But if you say to yourself, well, this happened. It happened. Like, I can't change that.
It's a fact.
Even if it was a minute ago, you can't change that. It happened. What can you do about it? What can you learn from it?
Yes.
How can you accept what just happened and still move forward?
Exactly.
And the way is to accept, be kind to yourself, be compassionate, and move on. Don't stay too much on what happened.
And I think
appreciate that.
Generally speaking, if we look at how we as human beings are learning things, we tend to think that we're learning from other people's experiences, but honestly, like, we learn from ourselves. A lot of the things we need to learn on ourselves. Like, you need to know that if you're touching something, a boiling like
Cattle.
like boiling water, it will hurt. But unless you try it once, you don't know. Like if everyone is gonna tell you, like if you put your finger inside your tea, it's gonna hurt. But if you don't do it, you will not know. And it's just that we don't do. But at least I don't know anyone that is going to try it. But the thing is that sometimes we need to do those kind of things so we understand for ourselves. Actually,
Exactly. Personal experience. Yes. And I guess that there's one point, and I'll let you continue after, where we have enough of personal experience that relates to what others were trying to tell us, that we get to that point and we're like, okay, he told me this, she told me this, and all the other times I had to do it on my own and they were right. I think this time I'm going to spare myself and just listen to what they said.
Yes, it's better. Sometimes it's better. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Exactly. Were you going to add something on that, Gal? Before?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Let me just check here. Oh boy. This is amazing. Oh, good. It's all perfect. So your interview is going to be a bit longer. There's two of you, so I guess it's all great. And anyways, what you're sharing is important. It's touching, it's inspiring, empowering also. And of course, I'd like to know your final thoughts. And with that, also how you help people, how you inspire them, how you empower women. Please, I'd love to know that.
So maybe final thought. I think reconnecting to yourself, to ourself, and beginning to loving what we see, and who we are is a journey. And we need to know that it takes time and practice, and enjoy the journey, enjoy the way, the path. And it's not about the destination, okay? Because you'll get there. Yes. Maybe it'll take 10 years, maybe it will take 20 years, maybe it will take 2 years or a month. It doesn't really matter. It's a process to, we were born in a certain way, and in time we just get disconnected from each other, from ourselves, because of society and our parents and things that we learn. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that when we begin this journey to reconnect to yourself, we need to know that it takes time, and to understand that it's a daily practice, and to be okay with it. And to know and to believe that someday you'll get there. Yes. And it's worth it. You got to believe us. It's worth it. And so that's for me. Do you want to add?
I'll add to that just like any relationship that we work on in our life, it's not because you have it and you have your relationship with yourself, whether you want it or not. It's not because you have it by definition that you need to take it for granted. The more you'll invest in it, the more you'll take care of yourself. It doesn't make you selfish in any way. It's our responsibility. And I think that's one of the things and the reasons why I love the fact that we're living in this area of time in this world, because it's acceptable to take care of ourselves. It's acceptable to work on self-love and on reconnecting and on growing, and things that were not acceptable 50 years ago.
Not even 20 years.
Not even 20 years ago. So I think we need to take this opportunity to really ask ourselves the tougher questions and to work on this relationship with ourselves, because we are the one that wake with ourselves in the morning, go to bed at night. Better enjoy what you see and better enjoy who you are spending your time with.
I love that. And that's what I mentioned in one of my workshops. Who do you go to bed with at night? Indeed. And just to sum up, if you could share more about your feminine circle. I know it's not what you call it, but that's the word that came to my mind, and what you do, how you inspire people and you help them to embrace who they are and have a more positive mindset.
Yeah. So what we do is we help women that decided to live abroad in another country, no matter for what reason it is, to create a life they actually enjoy living, see beyond the challenges and the struggles, because it's there. Life abroad can be really challenging, but the idea here again is not look at what's wrong outside, as reconnect to yourself, find what makes you feel good, and do that, and then create a life abroad. No matter where you are, a life you can actually enjoy living, because we're here to live a life we love and not just to struggle and to fill up forms, or, it's not about that, right?
Yeah. And as we shared in the beginning, this is the journey that we went through, from trying to fixing everything externally and to shifting the camera back to us and seeing like, what can we improve in ourselves? How can we reconnect, feel stronger, feel more confident, knowing what to use from our own capabilities so we can deal better with everything else. And we see a lot of women, or men as well, living abroad, and they try to fix everything external. They're trying to fix the system, trying to understand what the language, trying to improve their life situations, where at the end, the struggle is there and it's real. And until you are super honest with yourself and in a good place with yourself, it's hard. It's going to be even harder. So that's what we do. And we have this amazing community, membership community with women from all over the world. And we have a book and courses, and we're here because we care, because our strength in both of our top character strength is kindness. And we care.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You ladies are inspiring. And I do thank you for your work, how you reunite women that are living abroad. Wow. Thank you so much, Gal and Maayan, for sharing this morning, for being vulnerable, and for giving us tips also that we can take and use to go start our self-love journey or go further in it. Well, once again, thank you. It was
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. An honor to welcome you today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You ladies are amazing. Wow. It's fun. Really fun. What an amazing interview. As Maayan said, it takes a lot of honesty to say, this is who I am right now. I can change if I want to. And I want to remind you these words that Gal spoke. The things you thought were flaws can become something you'll learn to like if you manage them right. I also like the rhyme, I must admit. Make sure to grab Maayan and Gal's gift, Change Your Glasses ebook. Click the link below to access their gift.